seems legit.
My legitimates, it is finally time for me to finish up this beautifully quilted bag. This is the Timeless Tote. It was really fun to make. I should have read the instructions first because I would have put binding on these ends here. But instead I sewed it in a different way so that we don't see as much of the raw edges. But apart from that, it came out really nice. It's a nice big bag. It does have a base. You can see that I have not yet Tory squished it because it's sitting a bit funny. So I will get onto that. But once it has a good squish and it sits nicely, it'll be a really nice bag. So if you would like to see how to make this, please stay tuned. Right, let's get started. So I've got my hardware in my bowl, like always. I've also got the instructions so that I actually try and follow it the way it's supposed to be. Now, I have already quilted in my rainbow thread in a previous video, the outer panel. So I've done vinyl, black vinyl, which is my black Pacifica, and it has fusible fleece on the back to give it a little bit more structure. It will give more structure than if you were to just use fabric, but if you wanted to do fabric, what you could do is put foam to give it more of a structure. Anyway. So quilting is step one, and then we're going to take one of the outside back pieces, which are these quite big ones here. So this is quite a large tote. Then, so I've put the pattern comes with little tabs. So I've got everything in here. So that's a zipper pocket. This is the lining slip pocket, and exterior back slip pocket. So that's the one we're looking for. This fabric is from Spotlight. I bought it ages ago. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it's fabulous. Now, because my print is directional, I'm actually going to fold this in half and then cut it. So if you've got a non-directional fabric, you can just do it like a Tory pocket. But because I want the fabric to go the right way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it at the halfway point, and then I'm going to sew the top edge and the top edge together just with like a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm on a 2.5 stitch length. And what this is going to do is now make it so it'll be a tiny little bit smaller, but it will also now be all in the right way. So when you look in it, all the poppies are the right way. You can get this in cat fabric too, or you could. Again, I'm not sure if it's still there. So I'm going to take my, maybe bigger than that. What's this one? That one's too big, so I'm looking for this one here. So this is my 7-inch template. And a pen, and I'm going to measure in the center. Now the way I use these is these markings here, the top edge of the top, like the high points where the full inches are, I use those as my guide to put usually against the fold, but in this case against the join, to make sure that there's enough room for the zipper to sit correctly. And that's how I use those, so I can just draw that on. I'm going to leave that out in case I need it again. I think I might. You never know. Right, so now we want to put this in the middle. So, as always, I've found the middle point because of my quilting, because I wanted to make sure that it was the same on both sides. So there's my middle, and the side that I've drawn on is going to go at the bottom, and I'm just going to fold this in half and find the middle of this piece as well. And then all I have to do is line up the middles like this. So you can put this up a bit higher, down a bit lower. I'm just going to eyeball it and put it here. That's my personal choice. Now, because if you want to, you can smooth this down and put a clip where the two fabrics intersect, especially if you're using a waterproof canvas. It can be a bit slippery. Well, the thinner one that I have does anyway. So we just want to line that up in the corner, and then I'm going to stitch and back stitch. And go all the way along that long line, and then when we get to the end, we're going to back stitch. I'm going to flip it around 180 degrees, and I'm going to jump over to the other long line. So we're not stitching the small lines anymore. I've found that this gets a neater look. You will see in my earlier videos that I did, and if you want to, you still can, but I personally prefer to skip the short lines. You can take these off now. I always do that with waterproof canvas. Cotton, not so much. It doesn't necessarily need it. So I'm going to cut these jump stitches as well so that they don't interrupt the flow of everything. And now I'm going to fold this over, take some scissors and cut. Now normally I would use my Class A scissors, but they are not on my cart because I was cutting other things this morning. So then I'm just going to cut down the center, and then when we get about 3/4 of an inch from the edge, we're going to triangle out the corners. Oh wait, here's Class A scissors here. I have 2 pairs. So I find that these are better for cutting cotton because it's quicker, it doesn't hurt your hands, but these are better for cutting vinyl, is what I've personally found. I always said I would never be that person that had multiple scissors, but in this particular instant, it works in my favor. So if you're finding it difficult to cut, what you can do, I don't know if you can see this, is you put your finger at the end and push down on the scissors. And what that will do is that will actually help it cut because it gets more pressure, especially if you don't have a strong hand or it's being really thick and stubborn or your scissors are blunt. Multiple reasons to do it this way, but you got to remember I'm cutting vinyl and the stitching and a layer of fusible fleece, so it's just not really my friend. Put that back on the cart. Now because this is vinyl, I won't be able to iron this flat, but what I am going to do is I'm going to finger press that as best I can up, then flip all of it down and finger press it all down, and then push it through the hole. And then to make it stay, we're going to use double-sided tape because it will just make it easier. I could do it without it, but the amount of time it takes is sometimes just not worth it. So right against the stitching we just did, I'm going to put a line of double-sided tape on the top and the bottom, like so. And then you peel the backing off, and it should stick to your fusible fleece fairly well. And then I'm just going to pull this down until we're right on that seam, and then push it down onto the double-sided tape. And you can already see the bottom? I've got to slightly pull on this corner here, but it is sitting fairly flat. You just kind of have to tug on it to get it completely flat, but I'm going to do the other side now. So I'm going to pull it all the way back, and I kind of start roughly in the middle. Doesn't have to be perfectly, but I prefer to start in the middle than on a side. I just find that easier for myself. Now this is quite thick, but mission is still achieved. So it's not sitting in the way any longer. So now I need some double-sided tape, and I'm just digging through my tub to see which one I want to use. Which one did I use on the other pouch? So this is matching one of the pouches I made ages ago. I'm just trying to think. I'm pretty sure I used this double-sided this zipper tape. So we're going to use this piece here, which works out perfectly. So what we need to do is we need to install one zipper pull. I am using Smooth Criminal today, again, because it matches the other pouch, and I will be selling them as a set. even if you're not selling them, it's still, if you're making yourself a set, it's still nice for everything to match. I like to do so anyway. So I'm going to make my zipper go to the left. So I'm going to just put this underneath, line it up with the edge of the fabric. And I want to start just in front of the zipper, which is right there. I can already tell this is going to be difficult. So I'm not going to backstitch. And I just ran out of bobbin thread. Terrible timing on my behalf. It's alright, I pre-wound another one earlier because I anticipated this problem. Just not quite at the top stitching. Pop it in the bobbin. A lot of you wonder how I can do that without looking. It just takes practice like anything else. Alright, so I'm just going to go back to where I left off. This time I am going to backstitch because the whole point was I was going to go completely around in one swoop, which obviously didn't happen. Now I'm just going to pull on that little triangle tab that I left. Where's the other half? So I want to pull on the fabric part to make it kind of come underneath a bit more. That's why we leave a long triangle so that we can grab it easier. Needle down, pivot round, and we're going to go along the top. Like so. And then when we get back to the zipper pull, we're going to zip it shut and then continue around. You want to do this nice and slow. We're not in a hurry. Needle down and then go over the end. Now if you're using metal zipper tape, don't run over your zip. You'll just smash your needle and potentially wreck the timing in your machine. And then I've just done a bit of a back stitch back where I started, and that locks all the stitches in. You can also pull it through to the back and tie it off if that's what you prefer. Snip the threads, get rid of all your tails. And then we just let that fall down. And now I'm going to stitch all the way around the edge of the zipper. The zipper pocket, sorry, not the zipper. Needle down, pivot, line it up. Along the bottom, needle down. Fold the top over out of the way, and up the edge and backstitch. That was probably too much backstitch, if I'm honest. And so now we've got our back zipper pocket, which can open and close just if you want to check it. Alright, let's see where we're up to in instruction wise. A back slip pocket. Okay, so we're done with that. What have we got? This is the lining. This is the zipper pocket. This is the lining slip pocket. So I guess that's the one I'm looking for. And lining slip pocket trim. Let's do those. So I've got my little tabs and my clips. Now again, we're going to have that same problem where half the animal is upside down. So while it's in half, I am going to cut it. And I probably could have done the rest of these off camera, but then I would have forgotten to tell you that that's what I'm doing. Right. So then we're going to put one poppy right side up and then the other one. Now you can stitch this if you want to. But we're actually going to put the trim over the edge. I just need to see if we stitch it first, because that is also important. Oh, it wants us to make the whole outside first. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, take this one and this one, and we're going to put them right sides together. Now, because this doesn't have a top and a bottom, so I can just do it however I want, which is nice. And it is a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That's what I was just checking. It's always good to check these things. Prevents you from doing stupid stuff like the wrong seam allowance. So we're going to stitch and back stitch. Make sure these are lined up, and then off we go. Like that, and back stitch. Trim off those tails so that I don't have to do it later. Then we're going to do the same to this side. What is going on here? Let me just check the pattern for a second. Back are meant to be the same size, so I've just cut it down for that to be a thing. So then we're going to stitch the other edge, like so, with a back stitch. Okay, so now we've got a big loop. We now want our base, which is, what's that? You're the zipper part, you're not it. Here's my base here. I also quilted the base just because I could. So now you want to make sure you're putting it in the bottom. So here's my zipper pocket, which means this down here is the bottom. So we want to find our center, which I've already done. And then I'm going to use some wonder clips to clip them with the clips facing the base. Now, again, you could use foam on this bag if you wanted it thicker and more sturdy. This is going to be quite a flexible tote. It won't be like a super self-standing one, which is fine. It's just a different look. But you could turn this into a stiffer one. You would just, instead of using fusible fleece, you would use foam. So I'm going to start a 1/4 inch off from the edge because it'll be easier in a minute. And I'm going to go all the way along and then stop a 1/4 inch from the edge. And I'm eyeballing that, but you can also measure it. I eyeball a lot of things. It tends to just work out, but if that's not your style, that's okay. Okay, so now we're going to clip the other side, like so. And again, I'm making the clips face the base piece because they're easier to pull off as we sew. And we all know I like the easiest solution possible. So again, I'm going to start 1/2 inch from the edge and then just stitch along. This is all going fairly smoothly, which is nice. And then 1/2 inch from the edge, we're going to back stitch and stop. Because from there, we are going to take our Class A scissors again, and we're going to snip up to, but not on, the stitches, like this. So see, we're pretty close, but not so close that it's going to come unraveled. So we want to do that to all 4 spots. And you can see that I'm pinching the scissors to give it that extra effort so that I don't hurt my hand. So now, when we pull this, this should all just line up. And the corner's not really being difficult because we gave it that little snip. I love that little trick. It makes doing a flat base like this so much easier. You don't have to do it with rounded corners, but if you want like a nice sharp point, this is the way to go. So again, I put my fingers in and then pull it out like this, and then just squish it together. And add some clips. Lots of clips. Now you can sew it top or bottom. I'm going to do both to show you the difference, and then you can pick which one you like better. So this one, I've put the clips on top. So you just push the whole bag back, and then we're going to start. I'm actually going to start one stitch back from that edge stitching. And then I'm holding open that middle seam so that it's not too thick that I can't sew it. And then I'm going to get to the other corner and go one stitch past as well, because we don't want a little gap there. So that's that way, or you can do it this one on top. And it's all much of a muchness, but different people like to do it different ways, so I'm showing you both. It won't change how the bag goes together or anything. It's just a matter of, do you like this bit underneath or on top? I personally like it underneath because it's less likely to get caught and fold over on your presser foot. But that's just me. You can do it both ways. And there you go. Bottom is in. So that's the whole kind of outside of the bag. Does it want us to do the handles next or go on to the lining? Done that. Okay, we are moving on to the lining. Alright, so I'm just going to pop that down. We can go back to my slip pocket now. So that's the zipper pocket. That's what I'm going to turn the bag through. This one's the lining slip pocket. So, alright, so puppy dogs are right way up both ways. I am then going to just attach a couple of clips just to hold it until I deal with my little bit here. And I'm just going to check. Alright, so because this is smaller, what's actually going to happen is we're going to put them right sides together and stitch the sides and the bottom. So I might start at the top here. We're going to stitch the sides and the bottom. And I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You could do 1/2 inch, it would just mean your pocket that is slightly smaller. Needle down, pivot along the bottom. Now if this is your solid piece, if you didn't have to cut it, you would just do the sides. And then the gap goes up the top where we will attach this. So there's a little bit extra sewing if it's a directional fabric, but it's not too bad. So I am just going to cut off this excess fabric in the corners so that it turns through nicely. And I'm going to take off this little excess up here because I've got to stitch a piece on. So if we turn that through, this will now be our slip pocket. Now I'm not happy with those corners, so I'm just going to take my snips closed and push it into that corner to make it nice and pointy. Like that. And then what I need to do is I need to make sure that the seam is right on the edge, and I'm actually going to go and iron all of that down flat so that it creates a nicer looking pocket. If I was to stitch that now, it wouldn't stitch as nicely along here because it wouldn't be right on the edge. So you might have to roll it in your fingers back and forth until it's right on that edge, and then give it a steam press. So I'm going to go do that and I'll be right back. It's all ironed and looks lovely and flat. So now we're going to take our little piece here, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to fold it in half and just finger press a crease in it. What this is going to do is this is going to give us somewhere to put the fabric up to make it nice and sit on there properly. So by doing the finger press, You're just giving it enough that you can see where the halfway point is, so that you'll be stitching the back and the front at the same time. I'm actually pushing down quite hard there, whether it looks like it or not. So I'm going to go up to a 3 3/4 stitch length, and then I'm going to fold it in half and clip it on. So you can see where the halfway point is, which makes this much easier now because it folds over, and then another clip, and then we fold over and a clip, and we're just going to continue that the whole way along. Clip, clip. Now you can put more clips if you're using a different brand of vinyl. It might be more tricky to work with, so you might need more clips than that, but for me that's enough. So I'm going to start at the edge, and I'm going to stitch, and then I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm just going to hold my middle finger up against it to make sure it's not shifting out while I'm trying to stitch it. And something is caught. That's better. And I'm stitching 1/8 of an inch from the open edge. And then when we get to the end, I'm going to stitch and back stitch and pull it out, and then cut off the extra little bit of vinyl. Like so. And then, so I had a thread caught on the back, which is why it was bunching up. So I'm just pulling that thread out and trimming it off so it comes out. So there we go, slip pocket. So now we need a lining piece. The lining is also equally as huge. I just had it folded so it would fit better in my tub. And then I'm just going to fold this in half, find the center, because that's the center, line it up there, like that, and then we're just going to stitch it down. So I'm going to go back to a joining stitch length, and I'm just going to start up here on the vinyl bit with a back stitch, and then go down slowly-ish. You go as slow as you want. The more straight lines you sew, the faster you become. And then we're going to go up and we're going to back stitch, and there is our slip pocket. And trim our tail from over here, and our back tail. One giant slip pocket, and the little accent allows you to see it amongst the crazy print, which I think looks awesome. Lovely and bright. I love a good bright thing at the start of the week. Technically this is the start of my work week, even though it's Tuesday. Alright, so this is our other main panel piece, and I imagine we are doing our other zipper panel, which would be this one. And what else have I got in here? These are placard zipper tabs. Okay, so they're for the top. That's for the top. These are the handles. And these are the strap connectors. Awesome. So this is our placard. Now different people do placards in different ways. I'm going to show you a different way than what I normally do. Just because, why not? Really? Why not? You always see me do the same stuff. Let's do something different. So, first things first, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put on double-sided tape. This one is 1/4 inch because it's big enough to reach. And I think I changed the placard. It did have like an extra bit. I just decided to go with a straight look. Nothing wrong with that. the beauty of making your own bag. You can do it however you like. All right, so again, center point. You can clip it if you want. We're going to clip the center bottom. Like so. And so then we just need to line this up at the halfway point. So you fold this in half as well. Line it up where you want it, which is there. And then you peel the backing off. Or you can just do it the way I do it. What you could do is mark a center point with chalk and then line it up. But I can see where the fold was, so that helps. Okay, so that is where I want it. So I'm going to top stitch around the edge of the pocket. I'm going to go up to a joining stitch length, and I'm not going to start in the corner because that's always the most difficult to do. We're going to get to here. We do one stitch and then we go down, and then one stitch. One stitch, and then up, one stitch, back to the start. I'm going to run over the first 2 stitches and then back stitch, trimming off all the tails in the process. So now we have a zipper placard. So from the back, I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to cut out a little hole. It's always easier with snips, I find. And then we're going to take our scissors and I'm going to cut all of this off. You might find that you have to separate it from your double-sided tape. But that's right, that'll help later, that double-sided tape. All the way to the end, across. Now you can see I'm not being at all neat with this. You won't see it, so don't stress. You just need to make sure that you're cutting further back than the zipper pocket hole. That's all that actually matters right now, is that we're cutting further back than the little hole. You can even hold it back like this and cut / hack like that, take it out. And so this is my very tragic looking hole, but it's fine because this is going to cover it anyway. So we're going to take our, what's this one called? Lining zipper pocket. And again, it's needs to be cut in half because I want all the stuff going the right way. Like that. And we need some zipper tape. And I need a bigger piece than that. So it needs to be the full length of your pocket for doing it this way. Oh, how big's that one? Nope, also not big enough. All right, let's go with black. So I am going to lay it out on top and cut a piece off that is the right size. The pattern also does tell you how much you need, by the way. And then I'm going to crack it and put my zip on. Like so. I'm going to re-roll up this because I like to keep everything relatively neat. I know my sewing room never looks neat, but that's because I overbuy stuff. Can't really blame me. Right, so we're going to put this one right sides up and this one right sides up on top. And I'm just going to sew with a joining stitch length of 2.5, about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, like this. Then I'm going to put this one lining sides up, and I'm going to line this edge up and do the same thing on the other edge. Now if you need to, you can clip it. Or you can just line it up. Choice is yours. If you're new, you may want to put more clips than that. And back stitch. So now the zipper is attached to the pocket. So now all I have to do is open it up. Now you might want to iron this down so that this sits flat. Or you can just finger press it, whatever suits you. And I want it to close to the left, so that's how I'm going to hold the pocket. And then I'm going to bring this up and over, and then we're going to top stitch this down. So this is just another way to do a pocket. So I want to go in front of the zipper like we always do. We're going to sew it on pretty much the same way. We're just going to make sure it's all lined up, and we're going to be sewing, because there's that residual double-sided tape there, you can actually kind of stick it down, which helps as well. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go up to my my decorative stitch length, and I'm going to top stitch. Up, needle down, pivot, down we go. Needle down, zip it up. Down. Across the bottom. Whoop. That just stopped stitching then, and I'm not sure why. My bobbin. So see what my bobbin did? It's gone all weird and loose. I hate it when it does this, but if you don't fix it, it's not gonna work anymore, and it's done it to most of the bobbin. So the easiest way for me to fix this, I'm going to leave this in the video to show you, is I unwind it until it's no longer having a meltdown, which apparently is most of it. Lucky me. Oh, and that's got a knot in it. Even better. So it's all knotted and messed up at the moment. I'm actually not sure if I'm going to be able to save this. Last thing I need is a knot. Nope. Okay, so this is like properly knotted. Usually it doesn't get this far, but that's not going anywhere. It's knotted. So I'm going to have to undo it and then rewind it all on. I won't just throw all this thread out. I will put it on the bobbin winder and just hold it and rewind it manually. Takes a little bit longer, but I'm not wasting that much thread, especially with the rainbow that I can't currently get any more of. So I'll be back because this will take a while. So it got so knotted I actually had to chop it, which is very unfortunate because that's a first for me. Usually we're okay. So I'm just going to go back to where it had its meltdown and go back to stitching it on. Catch up to the other one and then back stitch when you get back to that starting point. Trim off the tails of which there will now be a few. And then I'm going to let the pocket fold down. Now it's going to be approximately 1 inch shorter. This is just how these pockets go. So you line it up like this, and then I'm going to take my Fisker scissors, chop off so that they are the same size. And then I'm going to stitch the sides. I'm going to start here on a joining stitch length and go down. I'm not going to stitch the bottom because this is where I want to turn the bag through. I'm going to go backwards. And then I'm going to go bottom to top because it's easier than trying to go top to bottom. I always keep the bulk of the fabric out of the machine where possible. And I just run out of that bobbin thread. And I didn't wind another one because I'm silly. Alright, another bobbin coming right up. So I'm just going to go a couple of stitches back from where I run out of thread and stitch and back stitch. So that will lock in both the old lot and the new lot. And then finish stitching up there. Like that. And trim off all the tails that you've created from these problems. Okay. So I'm going to open that zipper so I don't forget later. So that's now the inside bits done. What does it want us to do next? Alright. Lining slip pocket, we did that, so we're good. Completing the lining. So, along the side. So we're going to do a box corner bottom. So, put these right sides together. Now it says to gradually increase by 1/8 of an inch your seam allowance. I imagine this is so that the bottom fits in a bit better. So you want to end up, you want to start at a 1/4 inch and end up at 5/8. So you can draw that as a line, or you can just eyeball it like I just did. It just wants it a bit more of a seam allowance at the bottom because it'll allow it to fit in better. So we're going to start at the 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to hold it. And then we're just going to slowly increase until we get to there, like that. None of my pieces are even. I don't know what happened when I cut this. This is why I like templates, even for big pieces. You're not paying attention, it can all go skew-if. Right. So, now we need one of these. Lay this, do that along. Oh, it wants us to stitch the bottom as well. Okay, well, let's do that. This one I'm not going to taper, it's just going to stay. Like that. Back stitch it, even though I'm about to cut them off. That's okay. Right, so we're going to go there and there. I'm not giving these measurements for a reason, by the way, because it's not my pattern to give them. Right, so we're going to draw the little boxes and then we're going to cut them out. So I'm just going to chop it off, maybe. Oh, I missed. And then the other one. And the other one, like that. And then we're going to box the corners. So the best way to do that is to go into the hole and put your finger at the right angles and pull tight, and then lay that seam against each other with one seam allowance going one way and the other one going the other. That creates a flatter seam, which is why it's important to do. And then we just sew over. So we're going to stitch and we're going to back stitch. Had a real piano moment there, leaning over myself. Trim that and the other tail, which is apparently caught up. And then we're going to do the same one. Now the second one you have to pay a little bit more attention. So you need to check which way this seam is laying so that we can make this one lay the same way, like that. Because otherwise you'll have a weird twist in your base, which you do not want. Now obviously if you want to, you can use clips to hold all of this. I'm just using my fingers because I've done this a lot. That's not me bragging, it's just I've done this a lot. And the more you do it, the easier things become. Right, so box the bottom, check. Then find the completed exterior. Now it's time to add the bag label. Cool. Let's move on. So, exterior and lining are both done. We are up to our top bit. So we need our zipper plackets, which I have true vinyl and true rainbow. And no, I did not quilt this one. The other quilting took a very long time, and I just decided that because this is inside, it doesn't need to be. But of course, if you wanted to, you could quilt it. We also need our zipper tab parts. You need two exterior and two lining, like that. The other bits can wait, although we are nearly finished, so that's exciting. So now I need to grab my... So I need some zipper. And again, I'm in my zipper tub. Oh, I forgot I had that zip. I could do something contrasty and go white, because it's still the same rainbow look, and that could be fun. Oh, do I want to go contrasting? No, I don't think I will. But it would look cool, just saying. And I have a lot of white zipper. Right, next project I cut out might have to have some white zipper going on because there's a lot in my tub. So let's just go with black. Black's always a safe option because I'm apparently out of large pieces of black rainbow. So we need to cut a specific amount. So I'm actually going to measure this one out with my fading zipper, my fading ruler. I have to buy another one. My stick-on ruler has kind of died right between here and here. And they're the measurements I need the most. So I need to get a new one. Alright, so this is my zip. Now because we're putting on zipper ends or zipper tabs, whichever way you want to look at that, we're going to need to put our zipper on first, because if we put them on later, it's obviously not going to work out the way we hoped and you'll have no zipper pull. So if you always do it first, you won't forget. I know some people like to do one end and then do it. The problem is people forget. So if you do it now, you can't forget. Alright, so I'm going to lay this one right sides up on top like so. Now if you want to, you can clip it because it is a bit slippery and it does like to move. It's fun like that. So I put one each side of the zipper teeth and then we put the other one on. Now, if you've got a directional fabric, think about how we're putting this together. And then we're going to stitch, and it's still a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So we're on my joining stitch length, so we're going to stitch and back stitch. And back stitch. Trim there. Trim there. And then we're going to do the other end. So this way is the zipper upright. So if you can see your puppies' faces, make sure that they're going in the right way. It is somewhat important. Now my black goes whichever way it's told, so that's fine. I'm just going to put one clip on and hold it to the other end. Trim that off. And trim that off. Now, are we allowed to top stitch them? Press tabs away, and then it says you can glue them together. I'm not going to glue them. But I am just going to clip them. So I'm going to put one clip on the end like so, and one clip on the other end. Apparently I'm using different clips, but that's okay too. I want to top stitch it. It's not going to hurt. I'm going to top stitch it. I think it's going to look nicer. And I can't see that being a problem, especially if we glue them together anyway. So I'm top stitching. That is your choice. Because mine's vinyl, it wouldn't have sat as nice. You can't iron vinyl flat. We can, but it's excruciatingly painful, so we're not going to. Alright, let's grab a lining, and we're going to put this, lay your exterior across the center. Now it says to find the center, so I'm going to find the center of the zip, and we're going to put some clips. You can also just mark a line, but I find clips are quicker, so I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to find the exterior top of this one and the exterior bottom of this one, and that way they're going to all lay the right way, like that. And the exterior center of both of these. Now this is non-directional vinyl, so I can just do it wherever. But if you've got a patterned vinyl and it's directional, obviously do a top and a bottom, like I just did. Like that. Okay, so now everything has a center, because centers are the easiest way to measure things. So I'm going to put center Alright, this is just something I'm going to show you. So this is how I want it to sit. And this is how I want the zipper to go, right? So I actually need to do that. No. What am I doing? Oh my gosh, stop it. Right, center, center, clip. We're going to take some more clips and we're going to center out. No, I was right, because this will tuck underneath and then it'll be backwards. Either way, it's fine. To be honest, nobody's really looking. So like that. And then we're going to take one of these and in the center, line up the center with the center. Like that. I assume I'm putting this one on too. It would make sense. Yes, yes we are. I'm just checking. I don't know what happened with my measuring, but they are all over the shop today. All over the shop. Okay, so centers are lined up, which is the important part. And then we're going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to move that so it's not in my way. And off we go. And back stitch. Done. Then press them away, but we're not stitching them, we're just going to push them away. So lean that back and just kind of push it and bring that, and then we're going to grab our other one, which again we're going to line it up in the center. You can do all three at once if you want to. I personally don't like doing it this way, but you definitely can. So you go center, 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 clip, Center, center, center. Clip. It's not so bad. I'm not brilliant at it, but it's not terrible. Clip. And clip. I do tend to use more clips doing it this way. Bring it up along that edge. See, I'm just going to clip it and then come back and do the other one because it's being stubborn. There we go. Right, let's do the other side. So we're going to stitch, back stitch. And back stitch. All right. Done that. So now we're going to top stitch around the entire zipper. So we're going to pull all these back. Now, to help with this, you can use some clips to hold them in place, because otherwise they can be quite naughty, as you can see. I'm just holding them together. I also need to trim down my excess because apparently I can't cut things. Don't feel bad. Oh, it happens to me all the time. If I'm too busy, you know, chatting on the phone or something, this tends to happen where I cut them slightly bigger because I'm not paying enough attention. And that's okay. You just trim them down. It's not the end of the world. Right, so now that that's all pulled away, I'm going to go up to a decorative size 4. Now, I already stitched my bottom ones, so my bad. Should have paid attention, but that's all right. I can just start here and stitch down. We're going to get the same desired effect anyway. And you can even do one stitch towards them if you want to, and then I'm going to do one stitch back, and then I'm going to come and start right there. I'm going to cut off that jump stitch in a minute, so I'm going to do one stitch forward and then go back through that first hole, and nobody will be any the wiser. You won't even be able to tell. Or another option is you can just stitch straight through it. 2 stitches there, trim off my tails, of which finally I only have 2 of, and I can come cut this jump stitch so that you don't know that I didn't do them separately. You just cut the jump stitch off. Ta-da! Okay, so now we just trim them so they're even. It's easy enough. It says just to cut the zipper tab off, but I have to cut all my lining because, you know, I cut it crooked. Okay. So, based around the outside, well, I'm okay to not baste because I've just clipped it, which I feel is pretty much of a muchness. Do the edges, but it's basted with clips, so that's alright. You can obviously baste it with stitching. I might read the next bits. Fold the short sides, right sides together. Oh, you know what? It actually might be easier to baste it. I will baste it. I do love basting anyway. I don't know why I was going to skip it, to be honest. So I'm just doing it approximately 1/8 of an inch. You can do this quite fast. As long as you stay within the seam allowance, you can kind of do whatever you want. Like so. It will be easy to work with now that it's one piece. We all do know I do love basting. I don't know why I was going to skip it. Who are we kidding? Right, so now it's one piece. So now we're going to fold these right sides together and clip like this. And this one. Ah, dropping clips everywhere. So I'm going to put 3 clips on each end. And then double check. 1/2 inch seam allowance. Moments like these, you really need to make sure you're doing the right seam allowance, which is why I'm checking it. Now, it's going to be quite thick at that end point, and I'm not going to backstitch because I know my machine, so I just went back a few stitches and sewed through them again. It does the same thing as backstitching without breaking a needle because, you know, thickness. So I go all the way to the end like this, and then I lift it up, drag it back a couple of stitches, and stitch a second time. And that locks the stitches in. Ta-da! Just like backstitching. All right, done that. Critical part of shaping it. Lay your placard right sides together like this. So we want to line this up with the center of the teeth, like so. And then I'm going to add a lot of clips to hold it in place. Like this and like this. So we're folding this down, like so. And then grabbing these bad boys, like that. So we're having it down so it makes a very pretty point. Then we need a ruler. And we need to go. I need to move the clips because they're now in my way. So slightly scooch them over. And then I go up here like so. And I'm going to draw a line. And again, I need to scooch the clips up. But I'm not completely taking them off. I'm just moving them more out of my way. And I'm going to draw a line. Now, those measurements are in fact in the pattern. And then we're going to stitch all the way across there. Cool. So I'm on a joining stitch length of 2.5. I'm going to put my ruler away so I don't knock it on the floor. So I'm going to stitch. Now this part's not thick enough so I can back stitch. Now here's where it's getting a bit thick. Because I've used vinyl, so just keep that in mind. If you are on a domestic machine, you might not be able to do this part in your domestic machine if you've done vinyl and quilting and batting and all the crazy things I did. This can do it. I just have to make sure I go slowly. Nice and slowly so I don't snap a needle. And then backstitch to lock in your stitches. And then again, vinyl cutting scissors, and I can take off all these clips now. They have done, whoops, threw them on the floor, shocker. They just slip out of my hands, I swear. All right, Chop off the excess. Do, 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 do. Done. In the bin. And so this is now what we've got. And so now we can install it. And we've got to put in our other bits. So, pop that aside. We now need our rectangle ring connectors. So, they have used, what did they use? They used webbing or strapping, which is fine. You could totally do that. I'm using vinyl, and yes, things are about to get thick, but I'm only folding them in twice. So again, this is about to get very, very thick, so just keep that in mind. I will also put this disclaimer at the start so that I don't get you all revved up and then it doesn't work out for you. So I'm just going to fold them into the center, and I'm going to top stitch the edges. So I'm going to go to size 4. 1 and 2. And again, fold it into the middle, or roughly the middle. Doesn't have to be perfectly middle, funnily enough. And then one side and the other side. Stitching the edge will actually help it be flatter too, just so you all know. Instead of doing these, you could also, if you didn't want the rectangle rings and you were trying to save on hardware, you could just make the handle and stitch it straight into the bag. That would also work. And would make it probably less thick to sew. But it's clearly not what I plan on doing. It's just not who I am. Right. So let's grab, what do we grab? We grab the exterior. That would make sense. Right, so then we have to, from our center point, which we found, I'm just going to put a clip there to make my life easier. Center point and center point. We need to measure out from the center point and then put a rectangle ring. So fold it over like that. It's going to face downwards, so we're going to like drop it in. I'm going to line it up like that and like that. Clip and another clip to hold it in place. Then we're going to repeat this process for all the other ones. Should have done this first. I'll learn that for the next one. Right, line it up there. 2 clips to hold it in place. I'm also going to base these because otherwise it's going to annoy me. Put all of these on. We're making sure that the join is on the inside, by the way. I didn't mention that yet. No, that one's broken. It's about that age. Some of those clips are like 5 years old and they're just starting to break, which is fine. It is to be expected. They cannot last forever. I understand this. Okay, so clip and clip, and then flip it the other way, Again, I don't give out measurements if you're wondering why I'm not saying this part out loud. All measurements are in the pattern. And most measurements are more of a guideline, just so you all know. Alright, so that's them done. I'm just going to stitch them down. Because I don't want them moving. And my paranoia says that they will. So I'm going to stitch them in place. It will also be an added layer for later, because that is quite thick. And I'm just going to go all the way across the top, because it's probably quicker than back stitching and chopping off and then coming back again. And that just shifted. Alright, so they are now on and in place, and I don't have to worry about it falling. So now let's do the other side. Instead of back stitching, I just went straight through the same thing again. Thickness, and I just double stitch it instead of back stitching. Just makes me feel more comfortable. I'm going to have these raw edges here. You can prevent that by doing some binding on it, but I've already sewn it now, so I've made peace with that. However, my construction of the bag is going to at least have no exterior showing at the top. So we're going to just build it like a normal bag, which is why we've left the zipper pocket open. It makes sense to me. So this edge here, where we've created our little bit, goes to the edge here so that it matches up. So I'm going to open that out to hopefully alleviate some of the bulk. So I'm just going to put that there. And then I'm going to put this in the bag, and I'm going to come and do the opposite edge as well. So again, I'm opening out all of that to make it more flat. I like it when it's flat, it's easier to stitch over. So now if you pull taut, not tight, but taut, and yes, there's a difference. So if I just do that, it should all kind of basically line up. So I'm going to come along and add in a bunch of clips, and I'm putting them fairly close together because I've still got to add in my lining, because the bag actually said to join them together. And I mean, you could just zigzag along the edge, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do it this way because I want to. So if you put your clips in on the ends first, you'll actually find it's quite easy. You also need to make sure that you've opened the zipper, because that's going to make this part easier as well. So I'm putting right sides together. Like this. And it looks like it's going to be awkward to attach, but it's actually not, which is awesome. So I'm clipping this. We've gone off pattern, by the way. Right, so I've done that, right sides together. Now I'm going to take this and shove that part in the bag, and I'm going to come and attach this and do all of these right sides together. So then this will not have any raw edges. You could also bind them, and if I had have pre-read the pattern like I meant to, I would know that. So I'm going to come into this opposite corner, so it all just kind of lines up beautifully. Attaching it into all of the clips, like so. Oops. And then we're going to do the same to the other side. Oh, my tummy's grumbling. Must be snack time. Oh, look at that, it is. swear I'm forever hungry, but anyway, it's fine, it's fine. Right, so now the clips are all the way around, so I'm going to top stitch this, or I'm going to stitch this with a joining stitch length of 2.5 all the way around, and then I can just turn it through and all is wonderful. And you won't see this seam. If you have already done it like the pattern says and you come here for like a final look, you can just bind this. The only problem I have with that is that it's quite thick for me already. Like you can see how slowly I'm sewing this because of the thickness. So I won't be able to top stitch this. Whoops. There goes a magnet. But slow and steady really does win the race when it comes to bulk. This machine is technically not designed to do this. The thickest it's meant to make is jeans, but I mean, this thing's been doing this for years and it's fine so far. Which, you know, feels good. The tail got caught. We're over halfway around, and then I'm just going to turn this through the pocket, stitch the pocket up, and honestly, nobody's going to see those raw edges tucked up under there anyway. Over. You can hear when it goes over the things, it gets a bit thick, but that's alright. Now to reinforce, before I turn it through, to reinforce my handles, I am just going to stitch over it once more between A and B, just to really reinforce the fact that I don't want them to come off. And extra stitching is always handy, and I just ran out of bobbin thread. Of course I did. Oh, give me a bobbin is full again, thank goodness. So I'm just going to start off the strap connector and then just kind of go over it and back stitch a little bit just to reinforce them. It just means you can put more weight in your bag before the thread will break. So depending on what weight thread, like if you're only on a domestic, this will really reinforce that so that it won't snap when you put something big and heavy, like a big bottle of, I don't know, water. Okay, so now we're going to go into our zipper pocket and turn the bag through here. And it's a nice big hole of a zipper pocket, which makes this nice and easy. Like so. And then I'm just, before I finished doing anything else, I'm just going to tuck this under and then I'll go straighten out all the bag. Now if your lining's a different colour to your exterior, you may want to stitch this closed with the colour thread you need, but since mine's rainbow, rainbow it is. Trim off the tails. So I just tuck the raw edges in. Oh, there's a thread. Alright. So then I'm just going to tuck the lining in to the bag, pulling up at these parts here. Push the lining all the way to the bottom. Make sure I am pulling out to the bottom. Like that. Push out this corner. And then that has to go down. And I will be top stitching this. I will have to do this on my other machine because of the thickness. I'm not even going to try it on this. Over here is way too thick. But stitching this down, like there's too thick for this machine. Even with my pliers and squishing, that's still not enough. But it is looking cute. But before I get up and do that, we just need to make our handles. But the bag is quite cute. It is a very good, it's a nice big tote. I like a good big tote. So what you could do if you wanted to is go around and kind of clip everything together to give it more of a thing. But I'm going to use the other machine, so I don't really need to do that. What I do need is some double-sided tape. And I'm just going to put it down in the center. Oh, that's my stomach again. I'm really quite hungry. Before we top stitch, I might snack on something. I'm a little bit addicted to snacking on celery and pears at the moment. And no, I don't put anything on my celery. I know some people put peanut butter, which is an idea, but it's just not what I'm going to do. I'm trying to be healthier since I don't exercise as much as I used to, or at all for that matter. Alright, so I'm just going to fold both sides down into the center, and then I'm going to top stitch this down. Now you really want to make sure that there's no gap between this, because this is the only part of the strap I'm going to do. Although I could put on some rainbow webbing, that could potentially look good. But I don't want too much rainbow. It's kind of got a nice subtle rainbow look going. I don't really want to wreck that. So I'm just folding both sides into the center. And I will top stitch before I attach my handles. Into the middle. Right, and then I'm going to go up to a size 4 stitch length. And I'm going to stitch and back stitch. And then I'm going to back stitch, and I'll be doing a jump stitch to the other side. Like that. And then off we go the other way. Now the reason I can do this so fast is how I've positioned my hands. So my thumb's on top, and these two are like right up against each side. So that there is no wiggle room for movement. The same thing can be achieved if you get a couple of these heavy magnets and put them each side of it, and it will just slide through. But I find my fingers are just as effective and cheaper because they are free, because I already have hands. Alright, so that's one strap done. I will do the other one off camera because I really need to eat, and then we will come back and we will be looking at the cylinder arm and we will top stitch the bag.